The other phrase that we're looking at is wealth of the unrighteous. But before we get to that, sons of light, it's just referring to a group called the Essenes. Yeah, that's how you spell it. The Essenes. Does anybody know what cool little thing, an archaeological discovery that the Essenes have left us? Nobody know? They treasured their library so much that they put them in, they hid their library in caves all around the Dead Sea. And it just so happens that the library of the Essenes is our Dead Sea Scrolls that we have now. That's how kind of like picky they were about their religious sect. So much so that they would have their own communities. Okay? And if you wanted to be part of an Essene, you would have to relinquish all of your money to its leaders before you joined the group. Kind of like, I guess, socialism. The idea of, sorry, Tom. The idea of a group of people controlling the common good for this community. And that's how they acted. They would take all your money and they would use it for the common good of the community. It's just so everyone would be equal. Now, I'm not advocating that. I'm just saying that that's how the Essenes were. That's what they did. So much so that they would refer to everybody else who had wealth, everybody outside of their community. Guess what they would call that wealth? Look at your text. They would call it the wealth of the unrighteous. They would not trade. They would not even exchange money with anybody outside of the Essene group. Our phone is ringing. How dare it? How dare you call church when I'm preaching? Lost my flow. Tell them to get here. Wait, wrong number? Did you tell them, hey, we're in church? Can you, hey, drop on by. Center. Okay, sorry. So these Essenes, they had all their wealth in their community, and they would not trade or do business or give to anybody outside of their group. Basically what they did was that they hoarded their money, and they called everybody else who used the wealth outside of their community, which of course there's tons of currency outside of their communities, you know. They called it the wealth of the unrighteous. Now let's read these verses. The second half of verse 8 and 9. Jesus says, For the sons of this age are more shrewd in their relation to their own kind, just human beings, than the sons of light. The sons of this age, Jesus is saying, the sons of you guys, are much better at taking care of everybody else than the Essenes, because they hoard their money. They don't give to people who are in need, unless you fall under this Essene group. And Jesus says, verse 9, And I say to you, make friends for yourselves by the means of the unrighteous, by means of the wealth of the unrighteous, so that when it fails, because it will, when it fails, they will receive you into eternal dwellings. Jesus is speaking against the Essenes group when he's giving this parable, and he's also speaking to his disciples. He's saying two particular things. He's saying that, we'll get to those two particular things. But he's saying that money is used to help people. Money is used to help people. And that makes a ton of sense when you read the rest of what 9 through 12 has to say. Read verses 9 through 12 with me. And I say to you, make friends for yourself by the means of the wealth of the unrighteous, so that when it fails, they will receive you into eternal dwellings. He who is faithful with very little thing is also faithful in much. And he who is unrighteous with a very little thing is also unrighteous with much. Therefore, if you have not been faithful in the use of unrighteous wealth, who will trust you with true riches? And if you have not been faithful in your use of which that is another, who will give you what is your own? If you can't use money which is used for both good and evil in this world, shrewdly, if you can't guess which one to go for, who's going to trust you with eternal, heavenly riches that can only be used for good? You're just not going to steward anything in heaven. Who will trust you with things of great value if you can't even handle things of little value? Who is going to trust you with things of somebody else's? Or how can you be trusted with your own things if you're not going to even treat somebody else's stuff with goodness, with care? Jesus is saying two things in this parable. He's saying, don't hoard your money like the Essenes. And he's saying, use your money shrewdly. Shrewdly just means wise, smart, clever. Be clever with your money. Don't be like those Essenes who hoard their money and only use it for the common good of their communities. Don't do that. And be shrewd with your money. Because in a world where God is king, money is used to help people. I know it seems like such a foreign concept for us to get past, that money would not be worth more than people. But for some reason, especially in our culture, money far exceeds the value of a person. Do you agree? But that's not how you think, right? No, you don't think like that, right? You're Christian. Or are you? Now, if you believe that people are more important than money, what on earth are you doing with it? And this is where we can look at some of these things that we're going to talk about just real quickly. I mean, it's not going to be a huge, long discussion. Where we can take our money and not hoard it, but use it for the good of other people. How can we do that? Now, you're probably noticing that Jesus is doing a lot of stuff. He's teaching and a lot about wealth, right? He's teaching a lot about wealth. Seems like every parable we hit on, it's got something to do with money. Something to do with your possessions. You know, something like that. I wonder why that is. Seriously, I wonder why that is. I think personally, it's because money's tangible. Money's worth something, right? Especially to us, especially when it's ours. And when we take that money and we give it to somebody else for them to benefit, even though they haven't received it or received it well, what happens? It kind of irks us, right? I'm giving potentially something that can benefit me over to somebody else who might or might not deserve it in my own eyes. I mean, ooh, it just kind of turns our stomach, doesn't it? How many of you all are so quick? Oh, you got a need? Oh, I can't get out my wallet fast enough to cover your cost. For anybody like that? I know I'm not. And I think I'm a pretty good generous giver. But it's just one of those things that we have to wrestle with. Be wise with your money, especially when it comes to benefiting others. So, this is one of the cool things I love about Jesus, man. He says, what does he say? He says, just be shrewd with your money. Be wise with it. Don't hoard it up, okay? But be wise with it. Now, you tell me either some creative ways that you've done or something else that you've just popped in your mind. Tell me something to where we can be shrewd with our money. Give me something. How can you pass on your nugget of wisdom? Pass on your nugget. What is something that you're doing right now that shows that you're being wise with your money, so that when the opportunity comes along for you to help somebody, you don't have to take a huge cut out of your lifestyle to give to another person? Give me something. Stop talking.